Welcome to this week's edition of Falcon Focus. We are socially distanced, the masks are on, and we are ready to go for our final edition here in the first semester. And again, as long as it's safe to do so and it makes sense, we'll be back with you with new episodes of Falcon Focus sometime early in 2021. Be sure to stay tuned to cwfalcons.com for more information. Matt Menzel being joined by the Director of Athletics, Dr. Rob Barnhill, kind enough to join us and spend some time with us prior to this Thanksgiving holiday. And I know, the last, month or 8 months have been interesting to say the very least. I guess in your time as athletic director, which dates back to spring of 2001, has this easily been maybe the most difficult calendar year for you?
Without question. Has been for everyone,
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean, you go back to last spring when this happened. I can remember sitting in a conference room talking about what we were going to do with spring trips. Were we going to allow the baseball team to get on the plane, the softball team to get on the plane, other people to get on buses? And the senior administrative team is talking about it, but we all have our cell phones up. And the ACC's canceled. The Big Ten's canceled. And you're going through these national announcements about how everybody's canceling spring sports. And we all got caught up in the same wave. This is the right thing to do, right? We can't put people in harm's way when everyone around us is saying, hey, pump the brakes. And so, even way back to March, we dealt with the spring sports. Summer, June, July was kind of feeling out process. The NCAA was starting to release some of its documents and some of its plans. But July 6th was the Monday after July 4th. I remember that date, but that July 6th was not all, but primarily what we've been dealing with is COVID-related return to play protocols and plans till today. And then they'll change tomorrow and the next day, but, that's what we've been doing. That's what it is.
Well, and you went back to spring as kind of reliving, the whole process. But what was your, personal reaction? I mean, did you ever think you'd ever see a day like this where sports would be halted?
No. I teach the social aspects of sports class, and we talk about how our country is one of the more uniquely and intimately integrated society where sports are pervasive and really part of the fabric of everything we do.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, think about from an educational standpoint, from grade school through college. We have sports as part of our educational system. We have church league basketball and softball. So education, religion. We have professional sports and all the major sporting endeavors. And so it's a really big part of it. And I know it because I live it. That's my job. And we talk about it in my class. And I think people get it. But until it all stops, and you don't have anything to root for, and you don't. A lot of us are sports consumers, and there's nothing to consume. You don't realize how much of a part of your daily life it really is. I never thought in my lifetime I would see anything like this. My parents had the Vietnam War. We've had the war when I was in college. I think it was the first Gulf War, and we've lived through Iraq, and we're still in Afghanistan and doing those things. But on these shores, I mean, this is it. I mean, we had 9/11, and we tried to compare it to 9/11 early. Like this is, and although loss of life exceeds 9/11
Sure.
that way, and I'm not comparing the two as traumatic because it certainly affected everyone a different way. But it's a big thing, man. It's been a big thing, and it continues to be a big thing. I don't know if I don't want to jump ahead. I don't know what your questions are, but. And not only did I not anticipate it, I'm not sure where it's going to end. I don't see a clear ending, if you will. And I'm not, I guess naturally I'm a pessimist, right? I'm a glass half empty and leaking kind of guy. But I think that's my own self-protection. But I don't. There's no magic wand. This thing's science is going to do what it's going to do. And long-winded, no, I did not anticipate anything like this in my lifetime.
And, we'll talk about that in a second, how we maybe get back to
Sure.
somewhat, normal, I guess, scheduling and sports, but emotionally, how emotional was it in the springtime when you had to put the foot down and send out the email or the calls or whatever and say, hey, sports are done for the spring and for the foreseeable future, and then no one, you have seniors that may not get the opportunity to ever compete again.
Right. It was heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking. It's one thing if you go out and compete and you blow a knee out and it ends your career. You were doing something you love to do, or if you were training for. Mm-hmm. But this happened. This was none out of their control. There's nothing they could do about it. And then, I didn't deliver this on our shores, but in a lot of ways, I'm the one on this campus that jerked the rug out from under their feet. And so there was a lot of sense of personal responsibility for that. I felt horrible for those kids, even though the NCAA said, hey, we'll give you your year back. For most people, that doesn't make a lot of sense. Right? I mean, this is Division III athletics. You come, you matriculate, you graduate, you go on to be great professionals, great husbands, great citizens. And to lose that penultimate experience of your senior year, it was devastating for the kids. It was heartbreaking for all of us and our staff and our coaches and the parents. Mm-hmm. I can remember my last football game was played at Ferrum College out in the mountains of Virginia. You've been there, Sam. And little small football, little stadium, and they take all the seniors out, and there's only like 15 visiting fans, and I look up and I in the little bleachers, and there's my mom. I'm like, where's the old man at? And she points, and so he's way down at the end of the field. So I walk down there, and I'm like, hey, what's wrong? He's in the corner crying. I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, well, this is it. There's not going to be any more football, and this has been part of our lives for 18, 20 years, and now it's gone. And so I recalled that experience and what it must be like for these parents and these kids to have had that opportunity taken away from them. So it was harsh.
And like I mentioned, the question that I'm sure you get all the time is, when do sports return? Yeah, we have a schedule, but doesn't mean it's going to go as planned. We hope, obviously, knock on wood, everything goes according to the schedule, but that's not how things work. So from an AD standpoint, it seems like every week there are more questions than answers. How do you go about handling that? Because it seems like, I'm sure, whether it be athletes, whether it be parents, whether it be coaches, whether it be administrators, how do you go about handling just, every day a new, load of questions coming your way? And honestly, I mean, I'm sure you're honest as you can be, but we don't have all the answers that we would love to have.
No. So there are a couple of things. I think first is flexibility, right? And we can't control this. So you have to get that out of, and it's not going to be normal. Mm-hmm. So you got to take that off the table. The one thing I've said since the spring, and we've been steadfast on this campus, we're going to do our very level best to provide every one of our student athletes with the best practice and competition experience that we can, as long as it's safe to do so. So everything we do, every meeting that we have, every decision that we make is geared towards delivering upon that promise, okay? We want the kids to compete and practice and have as much experience as they can, because that's part of this intercollegiate Concordia experience and education experience for these kids, okay? Having said that, we are being bound by a lot of different outside influences. You've got your local health department. Mm-hmm. You've got state. You've got federal health mandates, right? Then you've got NCAA requirements, which then filter down to conference requirements. And, at that, I guess that's where we live right now, is in the conference requirement thing. We're all going to have to survive under the NCAA bubble, but the conference requirements are where I start to part company a little bit. And this is my personality, and it's not for everybody, but I start to part company a little bit with flexibility and the reality and common sense of things, okay? If you look out there and you can forecast a little bit of what it's going to look like with regard to resource allocation to be able to play all these schedules in the spring, mm-hmm. At this day in November, you have a pretty good feeling if you're a college administrator whether you can or you cannot. Well, if you cannot, then say that and move on. Mm-hmm. Don't continue to be a part of the conversation and slowing the wheels of evolution and change and planning. when you know deep down you're not going to do anything, you're not going to do it. So I'm big into reality on that part. But then I'm also I want to make sure we're proactive in the planning for those of us that can do it. Let's plan and have A and B and C, realizing that we're probably going to end up with X, Y, and Z, but we'll start with A and B and C. And that's what the days are. That's what this process is. And so as we move towards the future, how can we deliver on the promise that we made the kids and do so within all the constructs and constraints that are being, imposed on us, rightly so, and be able to do it in a safe manner. And, I've told the coaches from the beginning, normal's out the window. We're going to take what we can get. If you're supposed to play 40 games and you only get 10, hey, man, that's 10 games. That's 10 more than a lot of people. And around us, especially at this level, you're starting to see conferences and universities just saying, we're done. It's in a lot of ways that's an easy decision, and I'm not faulting anyone. That, to be honest,
Sure.
It makes a lot of sense because you're not spending a lot of time spinning your wheels. It's easy to just say, hey, if we take this off the table, we can spend more of our time, energy, efforts, and resources into planning for the future as opposed to this never-ending game of planning for next couple of months.
Well, I know some teams like hockey are trying to get some non-conference games, and obviously they haven't had a ton of success because whether it be COVID tests, whatever the case may be. But let me ask you about that. What goes into those decisions? Is that a team decision? Is that an administration when it comes to having to cancel games based on, okay, one or two people tested positive, or maybe it's a boatload? But if they have enough players, is it more out of caution, safety? Ultimately, how do those factors of games being canceled? Who makes those decisions?
So you have the NCAA testing protocols in place. All right. So those of us that agreed to play in the non-conference agreed to follow and abide by the NCAA return to play protocol. So you have that. Then you have to look at what your own personal satisfaction is or tolerance level is on your campus. If you look at Division I football, they have a minimum scholarship available player policy. If we don't have X number of scholarship players to put out there, we're not going to play because it becomes a player safety issue, right, and welfare issue. So for us, we look at how many available players do we have, what does our outbreak situation look like, what is the other team's comfort level with our situation, and vice versa, right? If they've had a couple of tests, they're going to leave those kids at home, that kind of thing. So it's really a give and take amongst the institutions. It's abiding by our guidelines. And I'm going to say that I'm going to stop here and say this. One thing we've learned out of this mess is that Concordia University, Wisconsin, is setting the gold standard at this level for sports medicine and student health initiatives and care. Our pharmacy faculty have gone above and beyond. They developed tests. They've developed protocols. We're so far ahead of many of our peers, and we are so blessed and thankful. One of the reasons we can even have these conversations about playing are those people behind the scenes that are doing it all. So the last part to your question is who makes those decisions? The health care people make them, and we abide by them because that's just how it has to be.
This may be kind of a loaded question, but, in talking about trying to get back to sports, if, games are to go on as scheduled come January, come February, as the hope is right now, what needs to happen? What becomes the standard now? How do you go about, playing the schedule as it's laid out?
We're going to be real creative. We're going to play first half of men's basketball. They're going to go in the locker room. We're going to play a game or two of men's volleyball while they're in there. All right. Then we're going to bring the men's team back out for basketball, finish the volleyball. Then we're going to play. I don't know.
Yeah.
We're going to do it. I just don't know how yet.
But, is there a standard now, testing-wise?
Yes.
How often do you have to test a week? What becomes a standard now in order for games to actually happen?
So the NCAA is driving all that. They've created a document called Return to Play. Return to Play, it's guidelines for testing, and they've broken all the sports down into 3 different categories, and then each category has its own testing requirements. And so basically you fall in line and follow those. And that's what's going to determine what you can and can't do regarding testing, and then how you manage the positives are up to your institution to figure that part out.
Now let's be honest here, and I guess I don't want to know maybe the details, nor is it really any of our business. But financially, how does that become a factor? Does that become a factor? Maybe not just for Concordia, but conference as a whole with some of the other institutions.
It's absolutely a factor. It's resource. So let's not just consider financial. We have to consider human.
Mm-hmm.
We also have to consider testing supplies. If you don't have a stockpile of testing supplies and you plan to all of a sudden in January do 200 or 300 tests a week, if you don't have them,
good luck.
Good luck getting them.
No
right?
kidding.
And you got to have the people to administer the test, read the test, disseminate the information. You've got to have the financial resources to be able to afford the test kits and supplies and the people and so on and so forth. So it's a big resource outlay. But again, back to what I said about us here locally, we're in a perfect it's perfect as you can be.
Mm-hmm.
We're in a great position because we have the human resources. We have the supply necessary to do what we want to do, thanks to the people in pharmacy. And we have the human resource ability to test rapidly and get results rapidly, thanks to our people in sports medicine and athletic training. So locally, we're primed and ready to face this challenge. But I can tell you there are very few people like us in our conferences. Other people have more significant hurdles and challenges.
No question, these are uncertain and stressful times at times, and certainly I'm sure it's stressful for you, and it has been. You know, we in athletics look to you. You're the athletic director, the leader, if you will, of the department. But I guess looking at you, though, where does your strength come from? Where do you turn? Because I can't imagine that these are always the easiest of days.
No, one of the things I love about my job is I'm Smokey the Bear, right? All I do is put out fires, right? That's what I do. But that's one of the things I love about the job. Probably the thing I love the most is every day is a unique challenge, and I'm a problem solver. I'm a fixer. And so this has presented me with just something that's in my wheelhouse anyway. It's in my nature to try to attack problems and compete, right? It's a little frustrating because I have no control over it. So I'm being bound by these things, but within those boundaries, we're competing. I have faith that it's going to work out. I have a great team of people around me. We have a super supportive administrative team here. We've made a promise, and we're going to try to deliver on that promise, and that's my guiding light, right? I told these kids we're going to try to play, and they'll never know, and none of us need any credit for it. But that's all we're trying to do is get them a chance to play. We told these parents we're going to give them a chance to play. And as long as I can wake up and look in the mirror and know that that's a reality for me, that we still have that opportunity, that's what drives me, is to get up and do that every day.
All right, enough about COVID-19. Last time we saw sports, at least live here inside the John Book Fieldhouse, let's go back to late February last year. Men's basketball team at the tournament championship.
Yep.
Won it in overtime against MSOE, qualifying for the NCAA tournament.
Yep.
How much fun was that event? And then the atmosphere, almost second to none with the extra seating. This place was filled to capacity.
Yeah. You can tell you're getting old when your memories are spurned by what comes up on your Facebook page, right?
Yes.
So something came up the other day, and it was pictures I posted of being at the women's soccer tournament in Iowa. I'm like, oh, wow, yeah, I remember that. What, that was a year ago? And so now the basketball stuff will start to pop up and as we get forward into the spring. But, yeah, what a great experience, and going to the national tournament with those guys and playing in front of a big crowd there. And we acquitted ourselves pretty well. I mean, they were a pretty good basketball team. If we'd have made a couple of shots here and there, it could have been a little, a much tighter game. But, yeah, it's been a long time. I did get the chance to watch our club hockey team play against Adrian, and that was a big win for those kids, and I was happy to see that they got to play. The guy that wrapped our goalie helmet, I played against him on Sunday night, and he's like, hey, you see the goalie helmets? I'm like, did you paint him? He goes, no, I wrapped 3 of them. And I'm like, to be quite frank, no. I've only seen one game, and I don't go to all the practices, so no, but I'm looking forward to seeing them, I am excited for when we get back. One of the things in this job is that competition drives us all. This is why we do it, right? Is to get up and to compete and to work with young people and to teach and to coach. And I look forward to that. Part of that's been missing, right? It's part of what the reward of this job is the winning and the losing. And I'm a junkie when it comes to that anyway. And so I haven't been able to win or lose. I guess we've all been losers since March, but I'm looking forward to winning, right? I'm looking forward to winning.
Well, and how, I was going to ask you, like, we talk about a memory of being here, right? The place rocking for the NAC tournament, but how blessed have we been? Because, I'd ask you some of your favorite memories, but I'm guessing that's hard to come up with because we've been blessed with so many of them. I mean, your time since 2001, so many championships, so many big-time wins, so many big-time atmospheres. We've really been blessed across the board.
Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't want to go back and pick out a favorite. There's so many of them. And not all of them have to do with wins. Some of them have to do with individual people, and some have to do with injuries that you've been a part of, and so we have been blessed. It's one of our greatest resources here at Concordia are the people, right? And that's the kids all the way up, and the number of young people since I got out of coaching. That number of relationships, personal relationships I have probably isn't as high as it used to be, but it's my enjoyment and my focus is more spread out, right? So instead of just, and I was always worried about everybody else, but when you're coaching football, you're like right here. But now I have 30 different opportunities to win and lose all the time. We have 30 different opportunities to celebrate wins and losses. And graduations, and then marriages and births, and so on and so forth. So, it is a great profession to be in. Even in this time, it's still a great profession because you still see. I was in the weight room the other day, and people screaming and hollering, throwing weights around. That's great, And if you were in the weight room minus the mask on everybody's face, you wouldn't know we were in the middle of this pandemic. And I think that competitive spirit. That desire to compete, that desire to play, the camaraderie of team, I think that's still evident every day. I talk to coaches about how are the kids handling it. Hey, they're doing great. They're doing great because they're doing what they love to do. As long as we can continue to deliver on that promise that these kids have a chance, I think they're resilient too. The other thing about our campus, we've been very resilient. From the top down, and we've embraced the challenge. We've overcome the adversity, and we'll continue to do so. You're not out of the woods, obviously. None of us are out of the woods yet. So we have been blessed, and I have no reason to believe that we won't be in the future. I trust that the good Lord will take care of us that way, and that there's an end in sight, whatever that looks like, and whenever it comes upon us. But between now and then, we're going to keep on keeping on. We're going to grind and make sure that. When the time comes and they blow that whistle and turn that scoreboard on, we're going to be ready.
Got two more questions. I'll get you out of here.
Sure.
I know one thing that's kind of neat, too, is when you look, and we've talked about this in the past, about just how this campus has grown in your time here, whether it be from sports to facilities to full-time staff. When you look at full-time staff, how neat is it when you start looking at some of the coaches you've hired now? Janelle Kotz, who, she grew up here essentially with her dad being the football coach. You have, John Seleska with men's soccer. You have Ryan Middendorf at Concordia alum. You have the new director of human performance, Aaron Seekman, who was a football wide receiver. But for a lot of these people, not just based on name, they've worked and earned their roles that they currently have. But how neat is it to see some of these people that have been associated with Concordia in the past, grew up maybe through the halls here, now come back in a full-time capacity?
Well, that is a double-edged sword. On the one side, it's great for them, right? It's great that we've been able to, in some ways, nurture our own and foster and grow our own. It's great for those young people to watch them mature as coaches, as husbands, as wives, as parents, as professionals, and to see them expand their roles and really have significant impact on this campus. But the other side of that thing is that I'm getting old. I'm getting old. I'm starting to see young people when they were young. Now they're older people. What does that make me? It makes me much older. So, but it's great. It is great. Again, it goes back to the people, right? We've been blessed to have those types of people in our midst that we could then elevate. And I think we've done a pretty good job of identifying talent from within, and fostering and growing that and giving those people the chance. I'm not afraid to hire young people if it's young people that I believe can be successful, right? Hiring young people, age is a number, but a lot of times young people don't get a lot of these opportunities, but all it takes is to prove that you can, and then we'll live with the ups and downs. You don't really learn until you get out there and make some mistakes. And all of these people that we put in place have had really successful beginnings of their careers. And there's, you look around, there's a lot more we didn't mention, right? There's a lot of other young people that have grown. So it is great. It is awesome to watch some of our own people come through and flourish.
And I'll wrap it up by asking you, obviously when COVID-19 comes to a close and hopefully things get back to normal, or at least, relatively normal, I'm guessing you still have a long laundry list of things you hope to, do or implement here at Concordia when that time is right?
I do. I've said this to you before. If you walk into my office, you're going to look on my desk, and there's going to be a stack of manila folders this high. To some people, that's like, well, man, he's disorganized. Well, maybe. but in that disorganization is the future, the current and future states of Concordia Athletics. There are projects that we've had to back burner. There are projects that we want to see get off the ground in the future. We have a lot. The work's not done. It'll never be done. Long after I'm gone, there'll be somebody else here still trying to do work. So you always got to get better and better and better. So we have had to pause on some of that stuff, but I think as we move forward, the opportunities to address those folders is going to come back to us, and I'm hoping that we're going to be primed as an institution and as a department to be able to capitalize on those initiatives.
Well, as always, I appreciate your time. Thanks for all the great information. Have a great holiday season. Hopefully we'll be back here at some point in January watching sports, but that's Dr. Rob Barnhill. We thank you for joining us all semester long. And again, as long as it's safe to do so and makes sense, we'll be back with you early in 2021 with more Falcon Focus programs. Thanks to Sam Dunn and Jeremy Crawford behind the scenes. Matt Menzel, thanks for joining us. This has been Falcon Focus on CWFalcons.com.